Hi, I'm Ariam, and these are my favorite books that I read in May and June of 2025. May and June were months that I read less books in, so I decided to put my favorite books together because I had less favorite books, obviously, for months I read less in. So, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, and The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell. So Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is a historical fantasy that it's like which is a genre I really, really got into this year, but like I would understand why other people wouldn't like this because this is super long and it probably didn't need to be that long, but I loved it and I love that it was that long and I just thought it was great. So it's basically about these two magicians and at the time the story starts, the England has a history of folktales of magicians, but all the magicians nowadays don't actually do magic, they just study it. And so there are these two magicians who revive magic. One is the teacher and one is the student. Like revive the ability to do magic. But the teacher, Mr. Norrell, wants to keep all the doing magic to himself and his student, while the student, Jonathan Strange, wants to bring everybody to be able to do magic, anyone who wants. And he's like, anyone who wants. A woman, poor people, who cares? If you want to do magic, I'll teach you. Uh, and it definitely also includes a lot of history and it's very embedded in the time and places it's in. I just listen, I fell in love with the world. I think that that's one of the reasons I did like the book was so long because I just if I the book hadn't been as long, I wouldn't have fallen in love with the world that Susanna Clarke created, and then I wouldn't have rushed to read all the other books in the series. Well, I haven't read Piranesi yet, but I did read The Wood at Midwinter, and I read The Ladies of Grace Adieu and Other Stories, both of which also happen in this world, and I'm really excited to also read Piranesi. He by Susanna Clarke because of that book. Then The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell is another first in the series, but unfortunately, I have not been able to get my hands on the other ones, and I am oh my god, I want the other ones so bad. This is a totally different book. It's also fantasy, but it's middle grade. And we're following this girl who loves physics. And one day she suddenly sees these dwarfs putting a train, building railroad tracks, and driving a train through her house. So she gets on the train, and they bring her to this fantastical world, and a whole plot erupts from there. And I think I had this in a reading blog that I really liked how the plot was like a real plot with stakes, but at the same time the book was really lighthearted and silly. And I found it so funny how like she's like, oh my god, I love physics. Wait, what do you mean this fantasy world is breaking this rule of physics and it's breaking this rule of physics? And I love this book so much, and I need the rest of the books. You know what I mean? I have two other books in series and one that's not in a series. So for series, I have the Book of Coley by Emma Carey. This is another first one in a series that I have not continued, but I definitely want to continue it. This is a sci-fi book sometime in the pretty far future where at some point scientists decided do to make trees grow faster, and it went really wrong and it caused the world to go into an apocalypse and lose like a lot of the knowledge of technology that we already have. And we're following a boy named Coley from one of the villages in this world who doesn't know anything about technology, doesn't really know about this history, and what he knows is that he cannot leave the village walls because the trees are very dangerous. They grow so fast that they need to eat meat. However, he when he does this, he a few things happen and he discovers a few things aren't quite as they seem, and a bunch of things happen from there. He does end up leaving the wall, but that actually there's quite a lot of story to get to before that. And I love this book. Like, yes, it's very much kind of like a dystopian world. Boy discovers that the leaders aren't saying the truth. Boy needs to leave home. Like, it's very much fitting those beats. But A, listen, I like those beats. And B, I just thought I thought it was very well written, and I loved how he found out everything, and I had such a fun time reading this. It was not the most unique thing in the world, but I definitely loved it so so much. Then the other book in the series is Voyage of the Basilisk by Marie Brennan. I did mention in, I believe it was I don't know which one it was, but oh, the April favorites that I read the first book in the series, uh, Natural History of Dragons, and I loved it so much. This is the third book of the series, Voyage of the Basilisk, and it is my absolute favorite. Like, I already love the series so much, and that is my favorite of all the books of the series, so you can imagine how much I absolutely love it. So, this series, the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, is an alternate history, fantasy, where there are dragons in the world, and we are following our main character who starts this series starts in the 1820s and it ends in like the 1880s. So or maybe the 1860s, something like that. So our main character really wants to become a dragon naturalist. However, she's a woman, but she finds a way to do it, and every book basically follows her in a different place in the world, studying the dragons there. But Voyage of the Basilisk, as you can tell, it's kind of based on Voyage of the Beagle, and she travels all around the world on the Basilisk, which is her boat, with her son and a bunch of other people, and oh my god, I loved it so much. I just absolutely this is like one of my favorite series of all time now, and this is my favorite book in the series, and oh my god, I loved it so much. And then the other book, which was not in a series, it was actually a short story collection, was The Sorrows of Others by Ada Zhang. I don't really know what to say about this thing because I really liked it, but what do I say about it? It's actually realistic fiction, and it just follows little vignettes of a bunch of different people, just little glimpses into their life. And I guess I really liked it because, first of all, the vibes, but more than that, I just like it show also like all the different perspectives. Like we'll often get like the same type of story, not the same exact story, but the same type of story from the perspective of different characters. Like we'll see like the same type of story from the perspective of an old father, and then we'll see the same type of story like in a different place. Like that one might have happened in China in Beijing in the 1990s, and this one might happen in America in the 2010s, but we'll see like the same type of story from a different time and place and from a different perspective. And I really, really like that. So, yeah, those are my favorite books from May and June of 2025.